Hello, I'm Jim Paxon. Today on Arizona Wildlife Views, we'll go birding with the best of them, visit a brand new shooting facility near Flagstaff, and hear a real live fishtail. All that and more right now.
Arizona Wildlife Views is brought to you by the sale of hunting and fishing licenses and the Heritage Fund, lottery dollars working for wildlife. Some projects made possible by the Sportfish and Wildlife Restoration Fund.
Welcome to Arizona Wildlife Views. Today we're along the Verde River, where every spring birdwatchers gather to search for feathered treasures.
Every year, they flock to Verde Valley from all over the world. Some are young, some are old, but these birds of a feather have one thing in common. They love to birdwatch.
This is a western kingbird. It has the pale breast with a pretty bright yellow belly.
Since 2001, the Verde Valley Nature and Birding Festival has been bringing birders to Cottonwood, Arizona and Dead Horse State Park. They come here to encounter the birds that pass through every April on their migration route from the south to the north.
We have the Verde River Greenway, and the birds follow the Greenway in their migration. So we're right here on the river and on the Greenway, and it just passes up and the birds just follow it all along. And if you've ever gotten up in the air and you look down on here, the Verde River Greenway is just awesome looking, because it's just this green patch that just runs right through our valley and right up north. So we're just fortunate. It's the right time and the right place.
So let the others come on up, everybody else come on up.
We started 13 years ago. This is our 13th year. And every year we have approximately 172 different species of birds, which some people have never seen before. And they get all excited. They get out of their van after they've done the trip, and they said, wow, you know, we saw this, we saw that. They just have a joyous time, because we're on a migration route. And so this time of year, a lot of birds are migrating through. Of the 100 and some species that we see here, there are maybe only half or less that actually reside here. The rest of them are just passing through, and we're fortunate enough to catch them as they're passing through to go north.
So if that's the same two red tails that were soaring up here, that other hawk might still be with them, but I don't see any movement down low with them.
I've been coming over here for the Verde Festival. I'm thinking this is my 8th year. This is one of my favorite bird festivals. It's not one of the big, huge monster festivals, but there's a lot of good stuff here, a lot of good people come around.
I think a lot of people have this stereotyped image of what Arizona is like if they haven't been to Arizona previously, and they don't realize it's just not rock, sand, and desert. That Arizona is very diverse ecologically, and it actually has the 3rd highest species richness of birds in the United States, which is interesting because the 2 other states that have higher total number of species of birds both have ocean, Texas and California. We don't have a coast. And yet we have the 3rd highest number of bird species that can be found in the United States of America.
On the festival grounds, there are activities for birders of all ages. Kids get a chance to play games, engage in hands-on activities, and learn a little bit about wildlife.
He's got a really hard shell.
Why?
Well, you know, it helps protect him. So if something wants to eat him, he can hide in his shell, and then he won't get eaten.
You get a lot of vendors. Anybody interested in optics or finding anything about birding, it's a good place to go to get your hands on and see what fits, see what binoculars fit you.
This event is really significant for us because it's our largest off-site event of the year, but this is an event where we can actually sell product, and so we bring all of our wares. And what it does is it fills two functions. It allows us to expose people to who Jay's Bird Barn is and where we are. So it's good publicity for us for one reason. Also, it allows a lot of people to have access to products that they maybe can't find anywhere else.
But these are the main reason people come to the festival. And with over 1,000 people in attendance, small birds can mean big money for communities like Cottonwood.
Well, I've seen people from Indiana today, I've seen people from Washington, D.C. today, I've seen people from Oregon, so we're seeing a lot of tourists and visitors. They might be RVers, they've also flown in, they've rented cars, they're staying in hotels, they're eating at the restaurants, and so it's called ecotourism. And it's very significant for small communities. As a birder myself, I often engage in going to other communities to birdwatch. And so I know what that economic impact is like, because when I visit, for example, I went to South Texas a while ago, I stayed for a whole week. So I stayed in a hotel for a whole week, I rented a car, of course I had airfare, so I flew into an airport, I ate out meals, I paid entry fees to state parks, national parks, and so I contributed to the economy of those areas where I visited as a birder, and that really helps the local economy.
People come from everywhere, yes. All over the world. There's a couple from England here birding for the first time in the United States. And so almost everything is new to them.
We only arrived in the country on Tuesday night, and of course, and it's only just Thursday, but we've booked in a couple of trips, one tomorrow morning, one Saturday morning, and then the owls. And of course, I've just seen this fantastic owl, so it was worth coming all the way to see that, that owl up there. That's fantastic. We have barn owls, which I've seen quite often, but we have nothing as big as that. In fact, when the ranger said, you know, I can show you, what's it called, a great horned owl, I actually didn't believe him. I just didn't believe him. I thought it was a stuffed owl. But in fact, it's true, and it's just mind-blowing, really. It's just massive. You have bigger birds, well, you have bigger everything.
The birders start early each morning and gather for field trips that take them around the state. Some are headed to the Grand Canyon, others to the Vermilion Cliffs to see California condors. This group stopped at Bubbling Ponds, an Arizona Game and Fish Department fish hatchery at Page Springs.
Well, there's some of the specialty birds like the common blackhawk. I mean, you're not going to find that at the Salton Sea or the Imperial Valley or San Diego or back on the East Coast, you know, so zone-tailed hawks running around here, and it's every place has their own special thing, you know, but here there's a lot of pretty cool birds. I mean, summer tanagers, holy smokes, that's about as bright as you get. The only competition they got is the vermilion flycatchers for intense reds, you know, and so just the color and everything else, and then there's, you know, the reptiles and the dragonflies and the flame skimmers and the damselflies and the, you know, lizards and snakes and the whole 9 yards. Or the bald eagle, you know. People don't expect to see a bald eagle. These folks come from back east or wherever, and bald eagles, yeah, but to see a bald eagle in this environment, that kind of surprised them maybe, you know.
It was with more than just a little fanfare, including a solemn honor guard presentation. And a traditional Hopi blessing that got the grand opening of the Northern Arizona shooting range underway.
Imagine a community like Flagstaff going so many years with no official place to shoot. You know, a little bit today you're going to hear some of the first shots downrange. Obviously, to the Arizona Game and Fish Department, those shots downrange mean the new hunters and the new sportsmen that will come along and carry the banner for conservation as we move into this forward in this 21st century. But more than that, what you're going to hear reverberate are the sounds of freedom. The sounds of freedom in a nation that never forgot that freedom never comes for free, and it's always been held and preserved by men and women who bore arms.
Northern Arizona residents had been without a rifle and pistol shooting range since 1968. The only local shotgun and archery ranges closed in 1994. As a result, one of Arizona's largest communities didn't have a designated safe place for recreational and competitive shooting, hunter education, or law enforcement training.
No law enforcement officer, whether it's a game warden, a DPS officer, a city cop, should have to go out into a cinder pit and take his targets with him and try to set up stands that'll withstand the wind and then qualify to testify in court. That's a sad thing to have to do that. So we're real proud that we have professional places to shoot, and we need to march that clear across the state. And today is kind of hopefully a new day.
Local dignitaries, congressmen, and game and fish commissioners spoke about the importance of this range and the long road they traveled to secure the best possible location.
The quest for this formal shooting facility began in the early 1990s. I was a brand new game and fish commissioner for the department, a little bit aggressive, but very naive about process. One day I walked into the then director's office, Dwayne Shrove, and I expressed to him that shooting sports and shooting range development fell within and was a part of our mission. I said, well, Dwayne, let's just run up the hill and let's build these folks a range. And he kind of looked at me and he said, okay, well, how about you do a little research?
I know that Commissioner Golightly and some of the other commissioners really worked hard to get it done. One of my very first acts as a brand new commissioner was to come up here and look at this facility. Mike met me. We came out here and looked at this ranch, and it really is exciting to see once we really put our mind to it and we have a focus and the staff really gets behind us, we can get something done. So it's been 2.5 years or less we've been able to bring this facility up to speed once we had the location we needed.
After 15 years of seeking to establish a new shooting facility near Flagstaff, the Commission purchased the 160-acre Foster Ranch in July 2010. Now, only 2 years later, the range is open for business.
Fire, go!
After the ceremonial ribbon cutting, families had the opportunity to shoot .22 rifles on the 100-yard range and try their hand at archery on the 50-yard range. Arizona Game and Fish partners with local sportsmen's clubs to share the expense of expansion and the development of infrastructure for ranges all across the state.
It works through the Northern Arizona Shooting Foundation. They are the organization that will be operating the shooting range. So a lot of that information is on their website. And well, it will work. There's still a check-in process and there's rules and things like that that they'll have to follow, but it'll be open to the public 3 days a week initially. And also there'll be special events, hunter education, law enforcement utilizes it during the week when the range is closed to the public.
The range is located approximately 10 miles east of Flagstaff off of I-40. For more information about the range, its hours of operation, and directions, you can call their hotline or go to our website. In time, the facilities and opportunities for shooters will increase as more venues come online. But for the folks of Northern Arizona, this range has been a long time coming.
It is very gratifying, a lot of happy faces there, a lot of thank yous from folks that have been waiting for this for a long time. So I take a lot of enjoyment in that. Just all of our folks that helped make this happen, and the director mentioned it, but if you could have seen what we started with and the rocks and trials and tribulations and just what it takes to pull something like this off, it's just really humbling, and I'm happy to put this one behind us and move on to the next one. As you can tell by the weather, today is going to be a fantastic venue for summer shooting.
good for the soul. I was raised in the tradition of hunting that has been passed down through generations. My forefathers hunted to survive. Even though I hunt for sport, I eat what I harvest. Medical research has shown that game is the original organic meat. As a society, we need to understand that food does not come from the grocer. All elements by which we survive, animal and vegetable, come from a process of birth, life, and death, the cycle of life. The vast majority of Americans support legal hunting. A recent nationwide telephone survey of Americans over 18 years of age, 94% of them supported the right to hunt, and 74% approved the practice of taking game by hunting. Hunting is always good.
Bring it here, buddy.
Harvesting is variable.
Here, boy.
Sometimes the most memorable hunts don't end up putting meat in the freezer. There is nothing comparable to crawling out of a warm sleeping bag in the middle of the night, gulping down some hot coffee, and hitting the trail in the dark to an area where we are so privileged to see the world wake up as the sun rises. It's a time to be in harmony with the world and realize that we are but a very small piece. That's soul soothing. A hunter has reverence for the order of the universe when he or she witnesses a meadow or a hillside come alive at the break of dawn. The crescendo of silence except for animal sounds and the thrill of being a part of nature is something unforgettable and almost inexplicable. Elk seen in the gray of early morning never fail to send shivers down my spine, whether I ever raise my rifle or not. Have you ever watched a turkey strut and fan and heard him gobble? Or had your cover blown by an old guard hen before the gobblers come into proper shooting range, and then watched in awe as the entire flock flies over the hill and into cover? Why, you'd surely agree that spectacle is better theater than anything on Broadway. There's nothing that can explain reveling in the music of a bugling elk while watching steam come out of his mouth on a frosty morning. That's part of the experience of hunting. Hunting brings us back to our history and our roots. The Pilgrims eked out a living by sweat equity and perseverance. They understood that in order to live, they had to raise crops of edibles, harvest wild nuts and berries, and either harvest game or kill some of the livestock they raised. They understood the cycle of life as a simple matter of surviving or not. They also understood the need to manage game populations. In 1646, Rhode Island decreed that no deer would be taken in the colony from May 1st to November 1st to allow fawns to be born and reared. Our hunting seasons today are based on modern scientific tools used by wildlife managers and biologists to ensure that hunters take from the excess of game and leave viable populations for tomorrow. Regulated hunting has never resulted in the extinction of a species. Whether I harvest or not, hunting is still a special time with family and friends. It's being away from the office with only the sun and the stars to tell time, away from traffic jams and out of the urban buzz that so many of us live in. It's meaningful visits around a campfire. It's exercise that requires no gym or equipment other than what's on my back. It's pitting my wits and experience against the weather, the mountains, and the wildlife. It is the thrill of the chase. It's about forging a bond with sons and daughters that includes opportunities for lessons in ethics, safety, outdoorsmanship, appreciation for nature, and just good, clean fun. Hunting keeps me connected to nature and ever aware of the cycle of life. Hunters are the original conservationists. In the 1930s, hunters worked in Congress to pass the Pittman-Robertson Act, whereby an 11% excise tax on the sale of firearms, ammunition, and hunting and archery equipment goes to state wildlife agencies for wildlife management. That's not just for big game, waterfowl, and upland birds like quail and pheasants. That money benefits all wildlife, including wildlife for which there is no hunting season. If you enjoy seeing wildlife in Arizona, thank a hunter. Part of the Apache culture of a successful hunt includes a prayer of blessing for and from the animal for sharing his life and the meat with us. When I'm fortunate enough to harvest an animal, then the work begins. One of the responsibilities of hunting is proper care and cleaning of the animal so that meat is not wasted nor lost. It's also part of the pride in being able to put quality meat on the table and share with family and friends. Some may try to convince you that in order to save nature, it must be preserved, meaning hands off and observing it from afar. A hunter knows better. Nothing in nature ever remains the same. My love for nature comes from my connection to it and from being a part of the cycle of life. For example, in 1900 there were less than 500,000 white-tailed deer nationwide. Today, thanks to hunters' contributions and dedicated state wildlife managers, there are more than 30 million white-tailed deer in the U.S. Before I take a calculated clean shot, I know that because of the efforts of my fellow hunters and conservation-minded sportsmen before us, there will be game to hunt next year and the next and the next. I'm part of the cycle of life. I'm ever close to the land and the animals I pursue. The traditions of hunts past are relived in fond memories. Hunting is good for the soul, good for the land, and good for the wildlife.
The last time I went to the Rocky Mountain Labor School, oh, wow. Yeah, I'd say we're doing okay there.
Spending time with a friend at Water Ranch Lake in Gilbert, DJ Rothens shares his fish story.
Middle 80s, I bought a 14-foot aluminum boat with a 10-horsepower Johnson motor, and my daughter and my wife both like to fish. Everybody likes to catch fish, but they like to fish. So there's a storm coming, and catfish bite really good before a storm. Anyhow, I told them if we hurry, we could get in the rig and get to our spot before the storm hit. We'd catch catfish all night. So we loaded up. We get down to the Lake Pleasant and get the boat in the water, and we were taking off, and the storm's not quite there yet. We get right out. Before they added the dam to Lake Pleasant, there was an island in the middle. We get right even with that island, and the storm hits, and all of a sudden there's 3-foot waves and whitecaps. So we pull up into this on the island, figured, well, we'll wait there for the storm to blow over. And it didn't blow over, and it didn't blow over, and it stayed there. I said, oh, what the heck? We'll fish here. So we get out our poles and bait up, and about half an hour goes by, and I fire up the Coleman lantern and realize there's 100,000 scorpions on this island. They're everywhere. I bet I killed 150 of them before we got back in the boat. Well, here the boat's beating up against the rocks, and we can't stay and we can't go. So we dumped out our water dog buckets, and we put on our life jackets, and I said, we'll head back for the dock. It was only about 600 yards to the dock, and every time a wave would hit the boat, 3 or 4 gallons of water would go in the boat. So my wife and daughter are bailing as fast as they could. It took us 45 minutes to go 600 yards to get to the dock. And we finally get up on the cement dock, and we just laid down there, glad we were there. And I told my daughter, I said, just think, the worst day fishing is better than the best day working. And she says, Dad, I want to get a job. There's always some memorable part to a trip. You remember that you got stuck, or you fell down the mountain, or it rained and you couldn't keep the fire going. And but if you stayed and worked that weekend, you wouldn't remember that. I think we'll keep that one. Even if it's the scorpions on a rock, you're going to remember that forever.
Well, that's our show for today. If you have any questions, check out our website at azgfd.gov. For all the fine folks at Arizona Game and Fish, I'm Jim Paxon. We'll see you next time.